2 months after the virus infected the Zephyrian communication network, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the rebuilt UES Liberty. The ship was hidden deep inside the asteroid field of the Kepler system, but it was no longer running or hiding. Today, the Liberty would lead the largest human fleet assembled since the Great Defeat. Jake looked out at the dozens of ships floating around his vessel. Most of them had been civilian cargo haulers and mining ships before the war. Now, they were armed with weapons that Dr. Amy Walsh and her team had built using stolen Zephyrian technology. The ships looked rough and patched together, but they were ready to fight. "All ships report ready for the final assault," announced Lieutenant Sam Davis from his position at the communication console. Sam had been with Jake since the beginning of the war. He looked older now, with gray streaks in his hair and tired lines around his eyes. But his voice was strong and determined. The final battle had been planned for weeks using the drumbeat communication network. Every resistance cell in human space knew their role. Pete Johnson's miners would attack Zephyrian ground bases. Roy Price's guerrilla fighters would destroy alien supply lines. Claire Dixon's stealth ships would disable enemy sensors, and Jake would lead a direct assault on the main Zephyrian fleet. But first, Jake had a message to deliver to the galaxy. "Open a channel on all frequencies," Jake ordered. "It's time for the whole universe to hear what humans have to say." The communication systems activated, sending Jake's voice across every star system in known space. The message would reach not only the Zephyrians, but also the Galactic Council and every other alien species that had written off humanity as extinct. "To the Zephyrian Empire and all who would threaten humanity," Jake began, his voice calm but filled with steel. "You thought you had won. You thought we were extinct. You were wrong." On his flagship orbiting Earth, Supreme Commander Thexval listened to the human message with growing alarm. For months, his forces had been plagued by the constant drumbeat, signals, and coordinated resistance attacks. His troops were demoralized and confused. Many of his ships had navigation problems because the drumbeat virus interfered with their control systems. "For 300,000 years, our ancestors beat these drums before battle," Jake continued. "They beat them to call warriors. They beat them to strike fear into the hearts of enemies. They beat them to say one simple thing: we are coming." As Jake spoke, the drumbeat signal that had been broadcasting for months suddenly changed. Frank Miller, still playing in his underground chamber on New Texas, began the most complex rhythm he had ever performed. It was the sound of an army marching, of hearts beating in unison, of a species that refused to surrender. But this time, the drums carried more than just sound. Amy Walsh had programmed a special frequency into the signal, a frequency that would do something unprecedented to Zephyrian technology. On Thexval's flagship, the navigation computers began to malfunction. The ship's controls started responding to the rhythm of the human drums instead of the pilot's commands. The steering system turned left and right in time with the drum beat. The weapon systems fired randomly. The shields flickered on and off, following the musical pattern. "What is happening to our ships?" Thexval demanded from his panicking crew. "Sir, all of our vessels are experiencing the same problem," his chief engineer reported. "Our computers are synchronized to the human drumbeat signal. We cannot control our own ships." Amy Walsh had made her greatest discovery: the constant drumbeat. Virus had not just infected Zephyrian communication systems, it had created a resonance frequency that interfered with their navigation computers. Every alien ship in human space was now dancing to the rhythm of human war drums. Jake smiled as he watched the enemy fleet through his view screen. The massive Zephyrian warships were spinning and turning helplessly, unable to fight or flee. Their advanced technology had become their weakness. "All human ships, begin the attack," Jake ordered. The rebuilt human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. Pete Johnson's converted mining ships used their industrial cutting lasers to slice through Zephyrian armor. Claire Dixon's stealth vessels appeared from nowhere to fire missiles at disabled enemy ships. Roy Price coordinated ground attacks that destroyed alien bases while their defenders were trapped in malfunctioning vehicles. But the battle was not just happening in space. On New Earth, Betty Kane led 10,000 resistance fighters in a final assault on the main Zephyrian garrison. The alien troops could not coordinate their defense because their communication equipment was playing human drums instead of tactical information. "For everyone we lost," Betty shouted as she led her fighters through the streets of New Earth's capital city. "For our families, for our freedom, for our future." The human fighters moved with purpose and coordination that the aliens could not match. They had been preparing for this moment for months. Every street corner and building was familiar territory. Every resistance fighter knew exactly what to do. On New Montana, Pete Johnson's miners emerged from their tunnels in vehicles they had built from mining equipment and alien technology. The machines looked strange, with drilling arms converted into weapons and cargo haulers turned into tanks, but they were effective against the confused Zephyrian forces. "This is for 6 months of hiding underground," Pete said as his improvised war machine destroyed an alien command post. "This is for everyone who thought we were finished." The Zephyrian collapse was complete and overwhelming. Their ships could not maneuver. Their communications were useless. Their troops were isolated and outnumbered. In less than 6 hours, the species that had conquered 17 star systems was defeated by the humans they thought they had exterminated. Supreme Commander Thexval found himself trapped on his flagship as human ships surrounded him. The drumbeat signal was so loud in his command center that he could barely think. His crew was in panic, unable to operate any of their systems normally. A communication request came from the human fleet. Thexval had no choice but to accept it. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen of the Zephyrian flagship. The human looked tired but determined. Behind him, Thexval could see the bridge of a ship that had been rebuilt from wreckage and scrap metal. "Supreme Commander Thexval," Jake said, "I am offering you one chance to surrender. Order your remaining forces to stand down, and we will allow you to leave human space alive." Thexval looked around his command center. His ship was helpless. His fleet was destroyed or disabled. His troops across dozens of worlds were being defeated by an enemy he had underestimated completely. "I surrender," Thexval said quietly. The word spread quickly through the Zephyrian forces. Within hours, alien commanders across human space were laying down their weapons and requesting terms of surrender. The war was over. News of the human victory reached the Galactic Council within days. The alien species that had dismissed humanity as primitive and extinct were shocked to learn that humans had not only survived, but had defeated one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. Jake stood once again on the bridge of the UES Liberty, but now it was the flagship of the reformed human colonial navy. Through the view screen, he could see Earth in the distance. The blue and green planet was free once again. In the background, the drums continued to play. But they were no longer drumbeats of war. They were drumbeats of victory, of survival, of a species that had faced extinction and refused to accept it. Frank Miller, now 71 years old and a hero to every human in the galaxy, played the victory rhythm from his chamber on New Texas. His hands were scarred from months of constant drumming, but he smiled as he played. The sound that had once called humans to hide was now calling them to celebrate. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through the stars for thousands of years. Never underestimate a species that has spent 300,000 years learning how to fight. Never assume that technology alone can defeat the human spirit. And never, ever ignore the sound of war drums. Because once those drums begin to beat, there is only one possible outcome: total human victory. The first pirate ship fired its main cannon at the human vessel. The bright red energy beam shot through space where the ship had been just seconds before. But the human ship was no longer there. It appeared to be in 3 different places at the same time, flickering like a ghost made of metal and light. "What is happening?" Kex-Tar roared at his weapons officer. "Where did they go?" "Sir, our sensors show the target is directly ahead of us, behind us, and above us all at the same time. This is impossible." On his screen, Kex-Tar watched the human ship dance between his fleet like it was playing a game. Every time his gunners fired, their shots hit empty space. The ship seemed to slip between reality and dreams, inside the human vessel. Lisa watched her impossible creation work better than she had ever hoped. The fighting alien systems were not just confusing enemy sensors, they were bending space around the ship in ways that science said could not happen. "Captain," she reported to Jake on the bridge, "the Vorthon shield generators are singing to the Zephyrian hull plating. They are creating something like a phase shift effect. Enemy shots are passing right through us like we are not really here." Jake stared at the main screen, watching pirate energy beams fly harmlessly through their ship. "Are we still solid? Can we still fire our own weapons?" "That is the beautiful part," Lisa said with excitement in her voice. "We are solid when we want to be and ghostly when we do not. The ship is learning which state to be in at exactly the right time." Ben Carter looked up from his navigation station, where his screens were showing a map of every place in the galaxy, except where they actually were. "Sir, our movement pattern is driving their targeting computers crazy. They cannot predict where. We will be because we do not know where we will be either." Amy Walsh had been monitoring the pirate communication signals. "Captain, their fleet commander is trying to give orders, but our mixed signal broadcasts are making their computers think. The orders are coming from 6 different people who are all saying different things. On the pirate flagship, chaos was spreading through the crew. Their communication officer, a blue-skinned Hylorian named Zektar, stared at his screens in confusion. "Commander Kex-Tar, we are receiving battle orders from our own ship, but the orders make no sense. One signal tells us to attack coordinates that do not exist. Another signal tells us to retreat to a planet that was destroyed centuries ago. A third signal appears to be a recipe for vegetable soup." Kex-Tar slammed his fist on his command chair. "Ignore the confusing signals. Fire everything at that ship, wherever it is." 3 more pirate vessels opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams. But the human ship continued its impossible dance, appearing and disappearing like a magic trick. Worse, the confusion was spreading to the pirate fleet itself. 2 pirate ships suddenly turned toward each other, their navigation systems convinced that the other ship was the human vessel. They fired their main weapons at point-blank range. Both ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Our own ships are attacking each other," the weapons officer reported to Kex-Tar. "Their computers think every ship in our fleet is the human vessel." Inside the human ship, Peter Kim was monitoring the enemy fleet from his science station. "Captain, their standardized systems are working against them. All pirate ships use the same type of computers, the same communication protocols, the same targeting systems. Our chaotic signals are like a virus spreading through their entire fleet." Jake felt a wild joy rising in his chest. For months, every alien they met had treated humans like children who needed help with everything. The Galactic Federation had given them a broken ship and expected them to be grateful. Pirates had attacked human cargo ships because they thought humans were easy targets. Now 12 pirate vessels were shooting at shadows while their own systems turned against them. "Amy, can you increase the confusion in their communications?" "Already on it, sir. I am broadcasting our mixed signals directly into their command frequencies. Their ships are now receiving orders in languages that died out thousands of years ago, mixed with Klinari love poetry and Draknari military marching songs." 2 more pirate ships collided as their navigation systems tried to follow impossible orders. A third ship began spinning in circles as its engines received conflicting commands every few seconds. Lisa's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, you need to see this. The ship is not just confusing enemy systems anymore. It is learning from them." "Learning how?" The Hylorian quantum processors are studying the patterns in the enemy attacks. Every time they fire at us, our systems learn a little more about how their technology works. The ship is adapting its defenses in real time. Jake watched on his screen as a pirate energy beam curved around their ship like water flowing around a rock. The ship is predicting where they will shoot? Better than that. It is teaching their own weapons to miss us. Our chaotic energy field is making their targeting computers think we are somewhere else, so they aim at the wrong place on purpose. Chief Medical Officer Dan Foster called from the medical bay. Captain, I am seeing something strange. The gravitational fluctuations from our mixed systems are affecting the crew. Everyone's reflexes are 30% faster than normal. Brain activity is increased. Whatever this field is doing, it is making us smarter and quicker. Jake felt the truth of Dan's words in his own body. His thoughts were clearer, his reactions faster. The chaotic energy surrounding their ship was not just confusing their enemies, it was enhancing the humans inside it. Time to stop playing defense, Jake decided. Lisa, can you overload the Draknari plasma vents? Sir, that would violate every safety rule from 6 different civilizations. Perfect. Do it. The human ship suddenly blazed with electrical energy as the overloaded plasma systems sent lightning dancing across its hull. The vessel looked like a living storm as it charged directly into the center of the pirate formation. Kextar watched in horror as the impossible ship became a ball of electric death racing toward his fleet. All ships, retreat. This is not a battle. This is madness. But it was too late. The humans had turned their ship of garbage into something that defied every rule of space combat. And they were just getting started. The human ship charged into the heart of the pirate formation like a comet made of lightning and determination. The overloaded Draknari plasma vents created cascading electrical discharges that jumped from one hull section to another, turning the entire vessel into a living storm of energy. Jake felt the ship vibrating around him as power flowed through systems that were never meant to work together. The bridge lights flickered between 6 different colors as various alien technologies tried to understand what was happening. Through the main screen, he could see pirate ships scrambling to get out of their way. Lisa, how long can we maintain this overload? Jake called to the engine room. Unknown, Captain. The Draknari systems are running at 300% capacity, but the Clinari bioenergy seems to be healing the damage as fast as it happens. The Zephyrian crystal matrix is storing the excess energy and feeding it back into the system. It is like the ship is eating its own power and getting stronger. The first pirate vessel that came too close to the electrified human ship discovered what happened when alien technology met human desperation. The electrical field surrounding the human vessel reached out like hungry fingers and grabbed the pirate ship's electronics. Every computer system on the pirate vessel started displaying error messages in languages that did not exist. Their shields are down, Ben reported from his navigation station. Their weapons are offline. Their engines just shut themselves off. Jake watched the disabled pirate ship drift helplessly through space. What did we do to them? I think our electrical field is too chaotic for their computers to understand, Amy said from her communication station. Their systems are designed to handle clean, predictable energy patterns. Our ship is broadcasting pure technological chaos. Their computers are trying to process information that makes no sense, so they are giving up and shutting down. Peter. Kim looked up from his science station with amazement in his eyes. Captain, this is incredible. The pirate ship's computer systems are actually trying to reboot themselves to handle our signal, but every time they restart, they encounter the same impossible data and crash again. The human ship continued its charge through the pirate formation. Every enemy vessel that came within range of their chaotic energy field found their electronics failing in spectacular ways. One pirate ship's artificial gravity reversed itself, causing the crew to float helplessly against the ceiling. Another ship's life support system decided it was underwater and began flooding the corridors with breathable liquid. This is impossible. Kextar screamed as his flagship's weapon systems began firing randomly in all directions. Their ship should not exist. Technology does not work this way. That was exactly the problem. The Galactic Federation had spent thousands of years creating perfect standardized technology. Every species used similar computer systems, similar energy patterns, and similar ways of thinking about problems. They had created a galaxy where all technology spoke the same language, but the human ship spoke every language at once, creating a babel of confusion that no standardized system could handle. Lisa had made another discovery in the engine room. "Captain, the Hylorian quantum processors are not just adapting to enemy attacks anymore. They are learning from every system we encounter. Each time we disable a pirate ship, our computers study their technology and figure out new ways to confuse it." "The ship is getting smarter?" Jake asked. "The ship is getting meaner," Lisa replied with a grin in her voice. "It is learning what enemy systems are afraid of and feeding them exactly those fears." Jake watched another pirate vessel lose control as its navigation system became convinced that up was down and left was right. The ship began flying in corkscrews, its crew too dizzy to fight back. "Ben, bring us alongside their flagship," Jake ordered. Time to have a conversation with their leader. The human ship moved through space like a predator closing in on its prey. The electrical storm surrounding it crackled and sparked, reaching out to caress nearby pirate vessels with fingers of pure confusion. Systems failed wherever it passed. But Jake had noticed something else happening. The ancient Clinari tractor beam system, which had been designed for pulling asteroids in mining operations, was responding to the chaos around it. The beam reached out and grabbed a disabled pirate ship, lifting it effortlessly. "Lisa, can we control that tractor beam?" "I can try, Captain." The Clinari systems think in terms of gentle persuasion rather than brute force. They are designed to move things without damaging them. Jake watched the tractor beam swing the captured pirate ship around like a toy. "How gentle are we talking about?" "Gentle enough to pick up an egg without breaking it, or strong enough to throw a mountain if the mountain needs to be somewhere. Else, perfect. Use that ship as a battering ram." The human vessel grabbed the disabled pirate ship and hurled it directly into two of its companions. The three ships tangled together in a twisted mass of metal and sparking electronics. The tractor beam reached out again, grabbing another ship and using it to knock a fourth vessel off course. Kextar watched in horror as his flagship became the last functional ship in his fleet. The humans had turned space combat into something that resembled a child playing with toys, except the toys were warships, and the child had the power of lightning. "Human vessel," Kextar broadcast on all frequencies, "you have won this battle through trickery and impossible technology. But this means nothing. The galaxy has rules. Order will be restored." Jake stood up from his captain's chair and walked to the main screen. Around him, the bridge hummed with the sound of alien systems working in harmony for the first time since the ship had been built. "Open a channel," he told Amy. The screen flickered to life, showing Kextar's reptilian face twisted with rage and fear. "You gave us garbage and called it a gift," Jake said calmly. "You attacked our cargo ships because you thought we were weak. You came here today expecting an easy victory over primitive humans." Kextar's yellow eyes glared at him. "Your victory changes nothing, human. You are still just one ship." "One ship that should not exist," Jake replied. "One ship crewed by beings who do not know the meaning of impossible. One ship that turns problems into weapons and weakness into strength." Jake leaned forward slightly. "Run home, pirate. Tell everyone you meet that humanity has arrived in your galaxy. Tell them we do not play by your rules because we make our own. Tell them we do not need your permission to be extraordinary." The pirate flagship turned and fled into hyperspace, leaving behind a debris field and a human crew who had just proven that sometimes the best weapon against perfection is beautiful, chaotic imperfection. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the metal hallways of the ship, listening to the strange sounds it made. Every few steps, something would creak, buzz, or spark. The lights flickered on and off like they could not decide if they wanted to work. Water dripped from pipes that seemed to be held together with some kind of alien glue. 6 months ago, Jake had been excited when the aliens chose him to command Earth's first spaceship. Now he wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The ship was not what anyone had expected. The Zephyrian ambassador had come to Earth with great ceremony. Velthar was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. He had stood before the leaders of every nation on Earth and made his announcement. "People of Earth," Velthar had said, "your species shows promise. You have survived wars, built cities, and reached for the stars. The Galactic Federation has decided to welcome you into our community. As a gift, we present you with this vessel to begin your journey among the stars." The crowd had cheered. Earth's leaders had shaken hands and smiled for cameras. Children around the world had dreamed of traveling to distant planets. Jake had felt proud to be chosen as the captain of humanity's first starship. But when Jake first saw the ship, his heart had sunk. It looked like someone had taken parts from a dozen different vehicles and stuck them together with no plan. The front section was smooth and silver, clearly from one type of alien technology. The middle was dark and bumpy, with strange symbols carved into its surface. The back had 3 different types of engines, each pointing in slightly different directions. "This ship has served many species before you," Velthar had explained when he saw Jake's confused expression. Each previous owner added their own improvements. It is a ship with much history. What Velthar did not mention was what kind of history. Jake learned later that the ship had been used as target practice by the Draconian military. The Clinari had used it to store garbage for 50 years. The Hylorians had tried to turn it into an art project and given up halfway through. The Vorthans had used it as a floating restaurant until health inspectors shut it down. Now Jake stood on the bridge, watching his crew try to make sense of the controls. There were buttons labeled in 6 different alien languages. Some screens showed star maps, others showed what appeared to be alien cooking shows. One panel kept displaying the weather on a planet that had been destroyed 300 years ago. Chief Engineer Lisa Rodriguez crawled out from under a control panel, her uniform covered in oil and some kind of blue alien substance that smelled like old fish. She had been working for 12 hours straight, trying to make the ship's basic systems work together. "Captain," Lisa said, wiping her hands on a dirty cloth, "I have good news and bad news. The good news is I figured out why the lights keep going out. The bad news is the reason makes no sense." Jake sighed. "Tell me." The ship's power system was built by the Dracnari. They use plasma energy. The lights were installed by the Zephyrians, who use crystal energy. The life support system is Clinari, and they use something called bioenergy. None of these systems are supposed to work together. "But they do work, sort of," Jake said. "That's the weird part," Lisa replied. "They should have blown up the first time someone turned on the power. Instead, they argue with each other constantly, but somehow they keep working. It's like having 3 people who speak different languages trying to cook dinner together. They disagree about everything, but somehow food gets made." Navigation Officer Ben Carter looked up from his station. His screen was currently showing what appeared to be a map of underwater caves on some alien world. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings on the sensors. Something big is coming our way." Jake moved to Ben's station and looked at the display. 12 red dots were moving toward their position. Each dot was much larger than their ship. "Pirates," Jake said quietly. The Crimson Void pirates had made Earth ships their favorite target over the past few months. They were led by a reptile-like alien named Kextar, who enjoyed hunting what he called primitive species. 3 Earth cargo ships had already been attacked. The crews had barely escaped with their lives. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," Ben replied. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. There were 48 humans on the ship, all volunteers who had known they might never see Earth again. They had signed up anyway because someone had to take humanity's first step into the galaxy. Lisa stood up and brushed dust off her uniform. Captain, our weapon systems are a joke. We have one laser cannon from the Zephyrians that can barely cut through metal. The Draknari gave us plasma torpedoes, but they're 50 years out of date, and the Clenari defensive shields only work against weapons that don't exist anymore. What about running away? Asked Amy Walsh, the communications officer. The engines are having the same argument as everything else on this ship, Lisa said. The Zephyrian drive wants to go in one direction, the Draknari engines want to go in another direction, and the Hylorian stabilizers are trying to keep us from going anywhere at all. We can fly, but not very fast and not in a straight line. Jake thought about his crew, about Earth, about how humanity's first contact with galactic civilization might end with their ship becoming space debris. The aliens had given them this ship expecting them to struggle with it for years before they could do anything useful. Maybe they had given humans a broken ship on purpose to keep them busy and out of the way. But Jake knew something about humans that the aliens did not understand. When humans were given something that did not work, they did not give up. They took it apart, put it back together differently, and made it work better than it was ever supposed to. Lisa, Jake said, you said all our systems are fighting with each other? Constantly. It's like they're having an argument that never ends. What if we stop trying to make them agree? What if we let them fight, but use that fight as a weapon? Lisa's eyes lit up with understanding. She had been trying to make the alien systems work together peacefully, but maybe the solution was to make them fight in a useful way. Captain, she said with a growing smile, give me 30 minutes and a lot of coffee. I think I know how to turn our biggest problem into our best weapon. The pirate ships moved closer, confident they were about to destroy another helpless human vessel. They had no idea they were about to face something the galaxy had never seen before. Human creativity born from desperation and the power of making broken things work in impossible ways. The 12 pirate ships moved through space like hungry sharks. Their hulls were painted black with red markings that looked like flames. Each ship carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. The pirates inside were confident this would be an easy fight. Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the human vessel through his ship's main screen. He was a large reptile with green scales and yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. His species, the Saurians, had been raiders. For thousands of years, they believed that strong species deserved to take whatever they wanted from weak ones. Look at that pathetic ship, Kextar said to his crew, pointing one clawed finger at the screen. It looks like someone threw scrap metal into space and called it a vessel. These humans are even more helpless than the last ones we captured. His crew laughed and made jokes about how quickly they would finish this fight. They had fought hundreds of battles against dozens of species. They had never lost a single ship to an enemy. Today would be no different. On the human ship, Jake gathered his senior officers in the small room they used for meetings. The table was made from 3 different types of alien metal welded together. The chairs did not match, and 2 of them were too small for humans. The lights kept changing color because the Hylorian mood sensors thought the room was underwater. All right, people, Jake said. We have 12 ships coming at us, each one bigger and stronger than ours. Our weapons are old, our shields are broken, and our engines want to fly in different directions. Anyone have any ideas? Lisa Rodriguez pulled up a picture of their ship on the wall screen. The image kept flickering between showing their ship and what looked like a recipe for alien soup. Captain, I've been thinking about our problems. Every system on this ship was made by different aliens who never talked to each other. They all use different languages, different energy types, and different ways of thinking. That sounds like more problems, not solutions, said Ben Carter. But what if we made it into a solution? Lisa continued. Right now, our systems are fighting because they cannot understand each other. The Zephyrian computers think in light patterns. The Draknari systems think in heat and electricity. The Klinari technology thinks in living energy. They are like three people trying to have a conversation when each person speaks a different language. Amy Walsh, who had been listening to alien radio signals, suddenly looked up from her station. Wait, I think I understand. When I try to send messages using our mixed communication systems, other ships receive garbage. Their computers cannot figure out what we are saying because we are speaking in 6 languages at once. Exactly, Lisa said, getting excited. What if we used that confusion as a weapon? What if we made our ship so confusing that enemy sensors cannot figure out where we are or what we are doing? Chief Science Officer Peter Kim nodded slowly. The Hylorian quantum computers could create interference patterns with the Zephyrian energy systems. That might scramble their targeting computers. And if we reroute power through the Klinari gravity systems while the Draknari plasma vents are firing, Lisa added, we could create a space distortion field. Nothing too fancy, but enough to make their sensors think we are in multiple places at the same time. Jake felt hope growing in his chest. His crew was not talking about fixing their ship's problems. They were talking about using those problems as weapons. How long would you need to set this up? Give me 25 minutes, Lisa said, and someone needs to keep bringing me coffee. You have it, Jake replied. Everyone else, get to your stations. We are about to try something that no one in the galaxy has ever done before. The crew scattered to their positions. Lisa ran to the engine room with Peter right behind her. Amy began working on the communication systems. Ben tried to make sense of the navigation controls, which were currently showing him a map of alien shopping centers. In the engine room, Lisa stared at the maze of pipes, wires, and energy conduits that made up their ship's power system. Everything was connected to everything else in ways that made no sense. Zephyrian crystal energy flowed through Draknari plasma conduits, Klinari bioenergy mixed with Hylorian quantum fields. Vorthan neural networks tried to talk to computers that thought in mathematics instead of emotions. Peter, can you make the Hylorian quantum processors start an argument with the Zephyrian navigation system? An argument? Make them disagree about where we are. If they cannot agree on our location, maybe enemy sensors will get confused too. Peter started typing commands into a keyboard that had symbols from 4 different alien languages. I can make the quantum processors think we are moving backward in time, while the navigation system thinks we are moving forward. That should create some interesting disagreements. Meanwhile, Amy was working on making their communication systems even more confusing than they already were. She connected the Draknari battle communications to the Klinari poetry networks. She mixed Zephyrian technical data with Hylorian emotion broadcasts. The result was a signal that sounded like angry robots trying to sing love songs. Lisa, I can broadcast our mixed signals on all the pirate ship frequencies at once. Their computers will not know what to do with the information. Perfect. Ben, how are those engines coming? Ben was staring at 3 different engine control panels, each one built by a different species. I can make the Zephyrian drive think we want to go to coordinates that do not exist. The Draknari engines will try to compensate by going in the opposite direction. And the Hylorian stabilizers will try to keep us from going anywhere at all. That sounds like it would tear the ship apart, Peter said. Or make us move in ways that physics says are impossible, Lisa replied. Which is exactly what we want. Jake's voice came over the communication system. 5 minutes until the pirates reach weapons range. How are we doing down there? Lisa looked around the engine room. Sparks were flying from every junction box. The lights were flashing in colors that hurt to look at. Strange humming sounds came from the walls. Energy flowed in directions that made no sense. It was beautiful chaos. We are ready, Captain. This is either going to be the most amazing thing ever, or we are all going to die in a very interesting way. Those are the best odds we have had all day. Jake replied. Let's show these pirates what humans can do with a ship that should not exist. The pirate ships moved closer, their weapons charging up for the attack. They expected to destroy the human ship with their first shots. Instead, they were about to discover that humans had turned their ship's greatest weakness into something the galaxy had never seen before.